going to happen next quarter. They ask, will this business continue to grow and create value over the next decade? It's about long-term focus, not the next hot trend. It's about investing in what you truly understand, what has a proven track record of performance, and what you're comfortable holding through market swings. You need to get rid of the idea that more is better. Quality is the thing that will make your wealth grow, not random diversification. At this point in life, you can't afford to scatter your resources too thin. You need to concentrate them in areas where you know the potential for growth is solid, where you understand the risks and rewards. If you don't understand what you own, you'll make emotional decisions that could cost you big when things get tough. That's why Munger always advised focusing on what you can explain, not just what you own. Instead of chasing the next shiny thing, focus on assets that have a proven ability to grow over time. This doesn't mean putting all your eggs in one basket, but it does mean you need to be deliberate about where you place your money. You don't need to own 100 stocks or dozens of real estate properties to build wealth. If you understand and believe in 5 or 6 businesses, then those should be the foundation of your portfolio. Understand their potential, their strengths and weaknesses, and then let them grow with time. The idea of diversification works for people who are just starting out and don't yet know what they're doing. But by your 40s, you should be more strategic and focused in your choices. Munger's third move would be to treat uncertainty as part of the journey. It's easy to think that you need everything figured out before you can take action. But that's just procrastination disguised as caution. You'll never have perfect information, and you certainly won't have all the answers before you make decisions. If you wait for certainty, you'll never act. Instead, start taking calculated risks based on what you know and what you understand. In your 40s, you can't afford to waste time waiting for conditions to be perfect. You need to develop a comfort with uncertainty, because the longer you wait, the more you lose. The longer you hold off on making changes or taking action, the less time you have to recover from any mistakes. Munger used to say that it's better to make a decision and be wrong than to make no decision at all, because when you don't make decisions, time passes you by, and you lose out on compounding gains. So, if you're 40, it's time to stop waiting for things to fall into place and start making decisions, even if you're unsure of the outcome. This doesn't mean rushing in blindly, but it does mean recognizing that waiting for everything to be perfect can keep you stuck. The real power of investing and growing wealth lies in making decisions and taking action, not waiting for the perfect moment. In your 40s, you've got enough experience to take smarter risks and to make informed choices. That's where the real opportunity is. When you make a decision, stick with it and don't second-guess yourself. Over time, the compounding effect of your choices will pay off. It's crucial to realize that your 40s are a time to focus and prioritize. It's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of your current life and feel like there's always more time ahead. But that's an illusion. The decisions you make now will have a lasting impact on your future. It's not about what you can do today or tomorrow. It's about making choices that compound and build over decades. So, stop pretending that you have unlimited time. Start making decisions with a clear sense of urgency. Cut back on unnecessary expenses, focus on investments you understand, and take action even when things are uncertain. That's the way forward. If you do these 3 things, you'll be in a far stronger position by the time you reach your 50s and 60s. You'll have the freedom to make choices, to weather financial storms, and to truly build the life you want for the long term. Remember, Munger's advice isn't about taking big risks or gambling. It's about being strategic, focusing on what you understand, and doing it consistently over time. Compound wealth doesn't come from chasing trends or hoping things will work out. It comes from making intentional decisions, one after the other, and letting time do the heavy lifting. As you enter your 40s, don't waste time on distractions or uncertainty. Get serious about your financial future now. You're not too late, but you need to act quickly. Every year you delay is one less year you have to let your wealth grow. Make these 3 moves. Cut back your lifestyle. Focus on quality investments and embrace uncertainty, and you'll be well on your way to securing your financial future. Time is no longer on your side, but it's not too late. Get serious about your wealth building now, because when you look back, you want to be proud of the decisions you made in your 40s, not regretful for not acting sooner. They ask, what's everyone buying? The next question is, does this company have pricing power, low capital needs, reliable management, and a product that people will still want in 10 years? If the answer is no, then you don't buy it, no matter how cheap it appears or how much the internet is buzzing about it. But if the answer is yes, you buy it at a fair price, and then you do the hardest thing in investing. Nothing. You let it grow while you live your life. You don't check it every day. You don't trade it out of boredom. You don't sell it just because your brother-in-law told you about something that sounds more exciting. You hold it because you understand it, and because time is the factor that turns solid businesses into outstanding returns. Now let's clarify what quality means in this context. Quality isn't about an expensive stock. It's about a business with a sustainable competitive advantage. Munger referred to this as a moat. This moat can be a brand that people trust, a network effect that strengthens as it expands, a cost structure that competitors can't replicate, or a regulatory advantage that shields the business from new competitors. If you can't explain the moat in 2 sentences, then you don't understand the business well enough to invest in it. That's the filter. Once you honestly apply that filter, your list of viable businesses quickly shrinks. That's a good thing. A short list of strong businesses you actually understand is much more valuable than a long list of mediocre ones you bought simply because they were trending. Munger was ruthless with his too hard pile. Most ideas ended up in that pile, and he wasn't embarrassed by that. He was proud of it because avoiding bad ideas is often more important than finding good ones. So, does this mean you should avoid diversification altogether? Not at all. It just means you should diversify across a small number of high-quality investments, not across 50 stocks that you can't even name. Holding 5 to 8 carefully chosen companies for the long term is likely to outperform 30 companies you don't understand, especially when you factor in taxes and fees. Taxes and fees are significant considerations. They're often the difference between retiring at 60 and working until 70. Every trade triggers a tax event. Every mutual fund with a 2% fee is essentially a silent partner taking away a substantial portion of your returns over a decade. Munger hated paying for activity. He preferred paying for patience. You should adopt the same mindset. Here's your action step. Open up your current portfolio. Write down every position you hold. Next to each one, write a single sentence explaining why you own it and how the company actually makes money. If you can't do this in one clear sentence, then you're not investing, you're guessing. Sell that position or spend the weekend learning enough about it to be able to write that sentence. For everything that remains, ask yourself, would I buy this today at this price if I didn't already own it? If the answer is no, sell it. If the answer is yes, hold it and set a reminder to review it in 6 months. Now it's 6 days. This is the rhythm of an owner, not a trader. Traders pay fees and taxes. Owners collect the benefits of compounding. One more thing, if selecting individual stocks feels too complicated or time-consuming, and you'd prefer to own a simple, low-cost index fund that gives you exposure to hundreds of great companies without needing to act as an analyst, that's completely fine. Munger respected that decision. The key is understanding what you own and why you own it, and ensuring you're not paying high fees for someone else to make guesses on your behalf. A low-cost, broad index fund held for 20 years will likely outperform most active managers and certainly beats doing nothing. The worst decision in your 40s isn't necessarily picking the wrong investment. The worst decision is choosing to do nothing because you're waiting for certainty. There's no such thing as certainty in investing. Reasonable confidence combined with a long time horizon is more than enough. Now, let's talk about preparing for the unexpected hits. Your 40s are when life starts delivering costly surprises. Aging parents who need support, kids who require braces, tutoring or college expenses, layoffs that last longer than expected, health issues that weren't on your radar, roofs that fail, car transmissions that break down, and friendships that dissolve because of money. If you're not planning for these events, then you're not truly planning. You're just hoping, and hope is never a good strategy for someone in their 40s. Munger loved the phrase, expect disaster. That might sound gloomy, but it's actually empowering. When you expect disaster, you stop being caught off guard, and you start preparing for it. Being ready involves three key things: cash, clarity, and emotional resilience. Let's start with cash. You need to have 6 months' worth of essential expenses sitting in a dull savings account, earning boring interest. Not invested, not accessible through a line of credit, just cash that you can access within 72 hours if needed. Why 6 months? Because layoffs don't resolve in 4 weeks. Because helping aging parents doesn't get cheaper. Because the roof repair isn't up for negotiation. If you don't have 6 months of living expenses, start building that buffer now, even if it means putting investing on pause for a couple of quarters. This may sound contrary to the culture that urges you to invest every dollar right away, but Munger would say that surviving comes before optimizing. You can't compound wealth if you're forced to sell your investments at the worst possible time because you didn't have a safety net. Cash isn't a drag on returns. It's the reason you get to keep your returns rather than being forced to sell them off during a financial storm. Next, clarity. In your 40s, you need a simple, written plan for what happens when life goes off track. If you lose your job, what's your plan? What steps will you take? If a parent needs financial help, what can you afford, and where do you draw the line? If your child needs something expensive, how do you decide if it's a true necessity or just a want? These aren't easy discussions to have, but if you don't have them ahead of time, the emergency will force you into making decisions under stress, and those decisions are usually expensive. Munger was a strong advocate for pre-commitment. Make the decision in advance, and then when the time comes, you simply execute. Write down your rules. For example, I will not take on new debt except for specific situations, or I will not liquidate my retirement savings unless absolutely necessary. Whatever your rules are, write them down and review them annually. That piece of paper becomes your emotional firewall. Finally, emotional resilience. This part is often overlooked. Your 40s can be tough emotionally. You're old enough now to notice the gap between where you thought you'd be and where you actually are. You see some friends thriving financially while others are falling apart. You realize that your parents are getting older, and your kids won't stay young forever. You're likely feeling tired in ways you didn't in your 30s, and the thought of starting over feels heavy. All of this is real. Munger wouldn't tell you to ignore these feelings. Instead, he'd advise you to accept them, and then act anyway. Emotional resilience